on Tipp FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome to another edition of Extra Time. My name is Ronan Quirk and we're here until 8 o'clock this evening. We'd love to hear from you. Our text number is 083 311 3311. You can also use WhatsApp, same number, 083 311 3311. We're on Blue Sky if you prefer that form of communication. Extra Time at bsky.social. But that text number again is 083 311 3311. Lots to come on tonight's show because competitive action has returned for a lot of our inter-county teams, senior hurlers, senior footballers, ladies footballers, all in league action this weekend. Our hurlers started their account in good style in Semple Stadium on Saturday night, 121 to 116 victory over Galway. Our footballers were in London with a last minute draw, and our ladies footballers had a good win in Enniscorthy as they took on Wexford in the first round of the Ladies Football League. Lots of that to come on tonight's show. We've local rugby with Joe Winston as well, local soccer TSDL with Barry as well before we go off air. And don't forget the Sports Star of the month for January. It's the last week for you to nominate somebody for the Tipp FM Sports Star of the month for January, because next Tuesday night we'll be announcing the Sports Star of the month for January. Don't forget, next Monday night is a bank holiday, so we won't be on air next Monday night, but we will be on air next Tuesday night from 7 to 8, because Monday is Lála Brida and we have a bank holiday at the start of February. We're still getting used to that, but Tipp FM's Extra Time will be with you next Tuesday night, the 3rd of February at 7 o'clock. Our text number again is 083 311 3311. But we're going to start tonight with events in Semple Stadium on Saturday evening, 121 to 116. And credit to the 7,700 brave souls who braved the elements and the players as well, because the conditions were atrocious on Saturday night. I mean, you're dry when you're in the stand, but you've got to get from your car to the stand, and you've got to get from your stand to the car afterwards, because it was really, really difficult. But anyway, fair play to everyone who went and shouted the team home. Good performance. We'll have some analysis in a minute, but before we do that, let's hear from Liam Cahill. He spoke to the assembled media, including our own Paul Carroll, after the full-time whistle.
Yeah, pleased to get the 2 points on the board, but I suppose really a good workout under difficult conditions for everybody. It was really the objective, I suppose, was to get plenty of work into the legs and the lungs, as well as trying to obtain obviously the 2 points, but a difficult afternoon as well, because Robert Doyle picking up a soft tissue injury, Joe Caesar maybe the same, we're not sure yet, but busy month January, and a difficult month with the elements and the weather as well. So a lot of these boys are busy. It takes a little bit of managing now to really make sure that we're not doing major harm to these fellas, especially with the championship coming around the corner.
Jake showed the benefit of his time off, scoring 8 points there and really kept you in it, blank periods in the second half.
Yeah, no, Jake came back in great condition, to be fair to him, as all the lads really. They really looked after themselves well over the winter, and there's obviously another tranche of more, let's say, established players from last year still to come back into play, but they're all in good shape and they're working behind the scenes, and we'll try and introduce them as the league progresses.
There's a few debuts out there, Cathal O'Reilly being one of them, very, very young, got a huge hook there on Evan Island. Talk to me about how he's integrated into the squad at such a young age.
Yeah. Look at he's probably, Cathal is no stranger to us all in Tipperary, really. Minor under 20 All-Ireland winner, tenacious player with his club Holy Cross Valley Cal this year as well, and has integrated really well into our setup. Paul, he's quiet, but he's a guy that's usually competitive and a great young man to train, and has hit the ground running with us, as has a number more of the younger lads that have come in, so it's really positive.
The game itself, first half was kind of ho-hum in terms of the intensity of it, but then the second half there was a bit of a scrap, you could call it, in the middle of the field. That seemed to really ignite everyone, and Tipp had a really good final quarter of the game. Must be kind of happy with how the lads kind of navigated that and finished the game strong.
Yeah, it probably did ignite the game. It needed it. I suppose Galway, in reflection, would be disappointed they didn't go in maybe 3 or 4 up, maybe even 5 up at half time. They had a few fairly poor wides, But we were aware of that at half time, and we felt we needed to start the second half well, which we did. Went into a 2 or 3 point lead and then gave away a soft enough goal, I suppose. But really delighted with the resilience, the communication and togetherness on the field to really finish with a really strong quarter after that incident to kick on and just get the result.
It's a busy 3 weeks, 3 games in 3 weeks. How do you kind of plan around that? I'd imagine that comes into the decision making around team selection and for today and for next Sunday as well.
Yeah, look, it's you see during the week we named a 43-man panel. We have a number of under 20s integrated in and out as well that are not officially named on our panel because we have to. And I suppose at the end of the year you always see these dramatic headlines about expense in preparing inter-county teams. Like when you have a congested schedule like we have in January here at the moment in particular, you have to have players and you have to have numbers and you have to look after them when they come in, and that's all expensive. It just doesn't happen overnight, and they have to have the proper expertise around them when they come in if you're going to ask them to play at the level we're playing at. So it's difficult, but we're fortunate in Tipperary that we have that support in the background from the county board, and we have the numbers in, and we're going to be using quite a number of players throughout the course of the league.
Would you, for next Sunday with Offaly, any of the guys that maybe haven't appeared yet, will any of them be available next Sunday? Ronan, there's one or two maybe that have enough done, maybe, Shane. You just don't want to maybe introduce these fellas immediately and then run the risk of maybe something going wrong with them. So a few of the more established players, as we call them, have come back in early January. So we'd like to maybe have another little bit into them before we go pressing any buttons. But you could see one or two of them featuring on the matchday panel. Like Jason was on our 26th there tonight, so he's well ahead, and obviously Seamus Kennedy has come back in great shape as well after a really good performance tonight. So the rest thrown, and a couple of little injuries with Craig, and Brian McGrath is unfortunate as well to pick up a nasty foot injury. So we've all them things going on in the background as well, which we're going to try and get a hand on as soon as they can. For long, Brian?
Still another 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say, minimum. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of work.
And Tynan?
Yeah, Tynan is a long-term injury, but he's responding well to surgery, and hopefully as the weather gets better towards the mid-range through the championship, hopefully we'll see Alan back in full flight.
In this game last year in Salt Hill was you guys like setting a tone for the year, a statement of intent. Is it trickier to set a tone when you come back as All-Ireland champions? You can't say, look, we're starting here, lads. How do you set the mood at the start of the year?
Yeah, well, I think it's mainly down to the players. To a certain extent, they come back, they have huge demands and standards and expectations of one another, so they drive that from within. We obviously give them as much support as we can to get them into that mindset. And you're right, this time last year the fixture was different. Galway were actually coming maybe in our shoes today versus where we were last year, and to be in fairness to Micheál Donoghue, he's made huge strides in the last 12 months. That was a really decent performance from Galway tonight, and they're definitely going the right direction as well, and credit to them tonight, they pushed us all the way, and as I said, could have been maybe a little bit closer, only for a few chances went to begging.
That's Liam Carroll speaking to the assembled media after events in Semple Stadium on Saturday night. Texts is coming in thick and fast. 083 311 3311. Credit to both teams on Saturday. It was a full-blooded encounter, the type of game that was full value in very trying conditions. Nobody could have asked for more, says that texter. Ken Hogan's online. Good evening to you, Ken.
Good evening, Roland.
Yeah, I suppose trying conditions is an understatement.
Yeah, it was so wet going into the match, and credit to the people that turned out. There was almost 8,000 people there, and I'm sure when you buy your ticket now online or whatever, you want to support the team, but on a wintry even, it was a wonderful turnout, and the Tipp supporters really responded in the second half, and got behind the team.
It was interesting that Paul referenced it, and he referenced it in commentary as well, that little bit of a coming together with the teams. It kind of ignited things, and it allowed Tipp to find an extra gear without ever hitting top gear, but enough to get past the Galway side.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I'd say Liam had a few, quiet words at half time with the lads because maybe there was a lack of urgency in certain quarters. They, particularly the Galway half forward line, were getting a lot of leeway and had scored heavily in the first half. And I'd say things tightened up really in the second half, and Brian O'Mara was a tour de force in the second half. Andrew Ormond was a different player, absolutely outstanding, and created the goal opportunity for Dara Stakem, who had come in as a very effective substitute. And of course, Jake Morris himself, absolutely captain on the night, but absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I thought Morris's performance obviously earned him man of the match. A lot of people were looking at the newcomers, and I felt very sorry for Jack Leamy. The game kind of passed him by a little bit. Very difficult, and you have to give a lot of credit to young fellas because that is a very difficult environment in those conditions to make an impact.
Without a shadow of a doubt, and Jack's a very busy schedule, with Fitzgibbon hurling and training and with both teams. And to be fair, the old story, a corner forward, it's a very difficult position to play, especially when there's not a lot of ball coming in. So I think Jack, has a huge future. I think he's going to get another opportunity or two. He earned his place and earned his right to be on the panel. Played on Saturday night and won a tough free in the first half. Won a great free actually, and I think he will still have something to contribute. As the year goes on. Yeah,
you make a point as well about being busy with Fitzgibbon and Dara. I think played last Wednesday night, played Saturday night. You just have to be careful, and I'm sure Liam and the boys know exactly what they're doing. But he did look a little tired towards the end, understandably.
Yeah, but the management managed the load very well. I think that the man management was very good because, particularly from the point of view that Dara, was replaced, and Jake came in, and Jake was absolutely outstanding, in his free taking ability as well. He nailed one very difficult one at a very vital stage in the game. But Dara has a busy schedule. That's the way he wants it. He's used to playing Harty Cup. He's used to playing universities, and he's still, a very young player. So from that perspective, I think the strength and conditioning team and the management team will manage the loads of the lads very effectively over the next few weeks.
The narrative going into it was very different from this time 12 months ago, when we were looking for a statement performance from Tipperary, and one of the journalists was asking Liam that, it's a trickier to set the tone when they're the All-Ireland champions. I thought the answer that Liam gave was telling, because he's really putting it up to the players to set the tone, to set the standards, and that's where the focus is. It's purely on them to a certain extent.
Yeah, and that comes from leadership as well, and when you have the likes of Mikey Breen there at the back, Seamus Kennedy making a welcome return and absolutely outstanding and got an exquisite point near the end. But these guys, lead by example. To show what the inter-county game is all about. A lot has been made of Tipperary. Like, there's a very strong panel there, but more importantly, I suppose, competition for places is going to be a huge thing. And obviously he'll rotate the team again, probably against Offaly. But I suppose, to win, put points on the board. At the end of the day, that puts bread and butter on the table, and the finances are there. So the National League is a well-known funder for the inter-county team. So I think overall, to get that 2 points against a very hungry Galway team, that Galway team, there was a little edge to the game right through rolling, and there was nothing wrong with that. It was good to get that type of competition at this early stage of the year,
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you on that, and you know more about Offaly hurling than I do from where you live and from your involvement with Clonmel. They put it up to Kilkenny for long stretches of their encounter in the same division. We're going to Tullamore next Sunday. I wouldn't expect anything too easy there, although Tipperary will be favourites to win.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, they were only beaten by 4 against Kilkenny below Nolan Park. Obviously, they're neighbourhood rivals. And by the way, just to correct you, I was never involved with Killarney.
Sorry, my apologies. I thought you were involved.
That's taking lessons team.
I apologise.
St. Ryan's.
St. Ryan's.
So from that perspective, I think Offaly have a point to prove. They've beaten us in an under 20 All-Ireland. They will be really looking forward. You can imagine the expectation down, with the Offaly public in Tullamore, looking forward to see the All-Ireland champions coming in. So while Tipperary will probably make a few changes, there will still be a strong core to the team because there's 2 points to be won.
That's a valid point. You can change too much too soon, can't you? You can disrupt flow.
Yeah, so I think from that perspective, I think everybody's looking forward to an important league campaign. And really, you mentioned it there, for the players it's an important league campaign, because when you grab hold of a jersey, you want to hold on to it, and you know that there's someone chomping at the bit to take it off you. So from that perspective, competition, is going to be great, going down the track. And like, you take it, next weekend is 12 weeks from championship rolling. It's hard to believe.
Gosh,
12
when
weeks
you put it that way.
play Cork. 12 weeks before we play Cork and Thurles. So time is going to move fast, and as you know, once January, the month of January is out, February's a quick month, and you're into March, and off we go.
Off we go. Listen, we're wishing our lives away, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Ken, it's always good talking to you, my friend. Talk soon, friend.
Anytime, Roland. God bless. Bye-bye.
Look. That's Ken Hogan joining us there. Our text number is 083 311 3311. Back in a sec.
Extra time on Tipp FM. The Tipp FM Sports Star of the Month with the Talbot Hotel Clonmel. Multi-award winning wedding specialists with state-of-the-art leisure facilities and spa with food served daily.
The Tipp FM Sports Star of the Month.
Get your nominations in now.
Yeah, our text number again 083 311 3311. Let's go to JJ Kennedy. He's on line too. How are you, JJ?
Hi, Ronan.
Any takeaways for you from Saturday night?
Well, I guess takeaways. It was a good win to dig out in very difficult circumstances, and I suppose maybe the big takeaway was that when push came to shove in the second half, and it was really on the line, the team dug in, and they really showed a bit of spirit and a bit of heart, and they weren't going to be denied in this particular game. I'd say Liam would have been most pleased with that attitude above all else on a horrible night for playing. You needed fellas really with stomach for the battle, and the boys showed that, and really finished out the game very strong, which was very encouraging from his perspective. Because it would, I suppose, you could look at the alternative here, Ronan. We sent out, 2/3 of the All-Ireland team, 10 out of the 15 started in the All-Ireland. So to lose it would have been a setback, and a significant setback against a Galway team that was very much a kind of a new look team for most of us here in Tipperary.
Very young
players. They're very young, and they'd be unknown to us, a lot of them. So, we needed to win it, and in fairness, the lads, in difficult circumstances, just really got their backs into it and dug it out. I'd say that was the most encouraging takeaway I took from it.
Yeah, and some good performances. I mean, Cahill's block on the Galway forward going through on goal got a lot of merit, but you have to look at his full 70 minutes, and I thought he was really, really involved. Terrier-like, I think, a lot of it, but that's kind of what we've come to expect from watching him play.
Yeah, I mean, those of us have been watching him for years now with Holy Cross and indeed with the Tipp underage teams. That's typical. That would have been no surprise at all to see him get in that little flick on Aaron Nyland and deny an almost certain goal. I think if the strike got away there, I think it was definitely a goal. There wouldn't be much that Rhys Shelley could have done about it. But that's really his strength. He's not the biggest man, and he's low in size and that, and small for cornerback, but he has other qualities. Really intelligent hurler, and really tight and tenacious, and very good at getting in those little flicks and those little blocks, and very good at reading the game. So he has a huge amount going for him. I mean, this guy has 2 more years under 20, so he's very, very young for this. And but again, showed, I think, on Saturday night, the reason why he's been brought into this environment, that he has that potential, and he's certainly one for the future.
Yeah, because it's very difficult. I made the point to Ken earlier. It's very hard for a young fella to go into that environment because of the conditions. I think they're not conducive to swashbuckling hurling. They're not conducive to making a name for yourself.
No, they're not, and it's difficult for experienced players. So you can imagine the younger guys were tasting it for the first time. You'd feel sorry for players like Jack Leamy there, because it wasn't a night for forwards. I mean, the scoreline alone would tell you that 9 points each at half time. It was dogged, it was very physical and very little opening. Forwards like the ball moving fast, top of the ground stuff. But there was none of that. It was soggy ground.
The ball was plugging like a waterlogged golf course.
Absolutely. And Jack Leamy, I thought he tried extremely hard, but most of his work was kind of chasing down defenders. He just couldn't get on the ball to show the sort of skill that he has. But again, it's not a defining moment for him. I mean, he'll have other opportunities, and. But we had enough of the players that really showed their experience and their quality in this, like Jake, like Willie Connors put in a huge shift as well. Andy Ormond again really came into it. Sam O'Farrell again showing how the versatile player he is.
And taking on shots as well, Sam.
Yeah, getting the scores there in the first half, and then he's brought back wing back in the second and does a job there as well. And Seamus Kennedy, good, Brian O'Mara, all these guys. Oisin O'Donoghue again didn't get on the scoreboard. We're kind of used to Oisin coming in as a substitute, I suppose, and getting goals. But I thought last night, while he didn't get on the scoreboard, he did a lot of work. He won a lot of primary possession and laid off ball to others for scores. And I think that's an aspect of his game that will be very valuable. Getting the goals is grand, but they won't always happen, and you need other sides to your game. And I thought he showed up very well in that regard on Saturday night.
Yeah, onwards to Tullamore, and look, I mean they were Offaly did a decent performance in Nolan Park. Some wides perhaps made the scoreline a little bit more flattering for Offaly than it would otherwise have been, but they still went off to Nolan Park and caused problems.
They did, and I mean, at times it looked as if a real shock was on the cards in that particular game. I know Kilkenny finished it out strong, and as you said, they had a lot of wides, but Offaly, you wouldn't need to. You wouldn't want to underestimate Offaly. I mean, they're a coming team. We know what they did to us in 2024 in the Under-20 All-Ireland, and they've had this group of young, talented players coming on stream, and they've been making progress. We sort of stole a minor All-Ireland from them, remember, as well.
They know.
So they have history against us, and they're a coming side, and as I say, they pushed Kilkenny down in Nolan Park, which is no mean feat. So we will be fancy to win it and all that, and it'll be a major shock if we don't. But I'd certainly say that the team wouldn't want to take anything for granted going into this one, and it's going to be tough. I think there is a slight narrative promoted by some people, obviously, around Tipperary at the moment that Tipp are the team with all the talent and all the young fellas coming on, and it's happy times in Tipperary and so on. I see a real danger in that. I think Donald O'Cusick was promoting it last night as well on the programme.
Land of milk and honey, I think he described us as.
Yeah, kind of a hyping up of you can view it one way or
I think there was a bit of glint in his eye. I think he knows what he's doing there,
He knows exactly what he's doing, and it's a kind of hyping up of Tipperary in the hope that you build a kind of a bubble around them, and that the bubble gets burst then later in the year. So, I mean, we need to be realistic. There's going to be tough times. This is going to be a tough league. I mean, you can just imagine the week after, the Saturday after the Offaly match, we're down in Cork, where there's going to be 20,000 plus of an attendance, I'm sure. Tipp and Cork in the league, that's really going to be one to look forward to, and you're going to have other tough games, so there'll be nothing easy in this, and I mean, there's no guarantee you'll even get out of Munster in the championship. So true. You need to keep the feet on the ground. Good as things are at the moment, you need to be realistic.
Tom McGrath joins us. How are you, Tom?
Good, Ron, thanks.
Your takeaways, I was asking the same question to JJ, your takeaways from Saturday.
Yeah, well, I think mission accomplished. Probably a decent challenge from Galway, but I think when the serious questions were asked, the Galway goal probably was the one that kind of lit a bit of a fire, and thankfully lit the fire under our own lads, maybe more so than Galway. And we kind of pushed on from that, and then we got a goal. Probably, you see the replays. Why would we complain about other counties throwing the ball? There was a couple of throws in, I suppose, really, but no, there was. I think the big thing from the other night was Galway went probably 40, 50 minutes, I'd say, and all their scores had come from play. And that wasn't that because the referee was favouring the home team, ranting at that. Our discipline, I thought, was very good. Colin Riley, I mean, Jay, you mentioned it there already. He could have just easily, conceded a free that time when Nyland turned him, but he didn't. He used his skill, and I don't have to talk Colin Riley up any more than I've already talked him up over the years, but super player, and good goods in small parcels, and he's definitely one that he showed that right and showed how the thing can be done. You see some of the tackles in some of the games yesterday, like penalties, black cards, all this type of stuff, and there's other ways of doing it too, and the black card is there and penalties for it and all that type of stuff, and go back to skill, and now probably a little bit of discipline on I'm going a little bit off topic, but a little bit more discipline from the defenders, and they probably wouldn't have the Watford defender in particular wouldn't have conceded the penalty, because your man was probably on his seventh step again he engaged you. But our thing was good now, and questions asked, which was the important thing, because when I saw the Galway team, I thought, we've 10 of the starting team from the All Ireland, and they have very much a trial team, but they were decent, and I think Noel Donoghue and his boys will have gained a good bit from it as well. But we don't want to get carried away either. And Donal Logue last night, he's trying to divert some of the hype that was in Cork last year up our direction. I think we've a well-grounded troops, crowds, and a crew over them as well. And I think that I think that Liam Cahill now wouldn't be long about bringing that down there. He was getting a bit beyond his station. So I think that's an important thing. But get your win, go to Tullamore this weekend now, and sort of there's a job to be done. There's 2 points to be got, and I said target last week 4 out of the first 3 games. Well, sure, there's nothing wrong with having 4 out of the first 2 games.
That's true. Yeah. See what happens.
Be comfortable and get yourself, and then you can evaluate where you are, and then there's the financials of it. But the management have a job to do as well, to get game time into players, to test lads, and maybe like Jack Leamy the other night, ball didn't run his direction a huge amount, but it wasn't Jack Leamy weather. Get a look at Jack Leamy down in Nolan Park or in Walsh Park in 6 weeks' time when the ground will be that little bit better, and give. No, I'm not saying they'll leave them that long before they'll have another look at him, but you know the point I'm making.
Yeah, I do. JJ, I just leave last word on hurling with you. Ken Hogan's have to put into fear of God in me, because he's have to remind us that it's only 12 weeks between the opening round of the Munster Championship, Tipp, Cork and Thurles. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in the next 12 weeks. There's a lot of players really, chomping at the bit to get game time, and that's a very difficult balancing act for Liam and Mikey and the rest of the team to perform. So changes will be obviously inevitable for the Offaly match, but I think supporters are going to have to wait a while before a team settles.
Yeah, that's inevitable, I think. It's a situation that's going to need very careful management. I think Liam has said that himself, and I think that's very obvious. That you have to. It's a bit of a balancing act. You need to win games, so that's the primary focus. You have to win these games, but at the same time, then you have to gradually introduce some of the newer guys to see how they're shaping up and how they're developing at that level. So it's a balancing act between the two of those. And I would imagine as the league goes on, you have 6 games, and as that process goes on, you will see more and more of the more established fellas gradually coming back into the team and getting game time, because they all have to get game time before the championship start against Cork.
Yeah.
And I mean, injuries are a complicating factor in this. I mean, Ronan is out for a considerable length, and you have other players injured as well, Craig Morgan and so on, Alan Tynan and that. So that has to be factored into the management of it as well. So it's a difficult process, and you would say that possibly the match next Sunday may give a little bit of scope for more trial of these younger fellas. But as you go along, then you're playing the Corks and the Limericks and the Kilkennys and so on. You'll be getting back more and more, I would imagine, towards your full strength ahead of the championship.
JJ, as always, many thanks for your time tonight.
You're welcome, Ronan.
Tom, just stay with us for a few minutes, because what we're going to do is turn our attention to events in London. And let's hear from Niall Fitzgerald. He spoke to Paul Carroll after the draw that Tipperary secured late on, I have to say, in Ruislip yesterday.
Yeah, look, I suppose delighted to come away with a point when it was looking very unlikely, and really happy that we showed that character. But I suppose really disappointed with some elements of our game. I thought our general efficiency was really below par. I thought that some of our decision making was, very, very poor, and we left a lot of scores behind us. I think we hand passed 2 balls against the post. You got to be taking those scores, like, and just. That was disappointing. We felt there was kind of a constant team during the game where we got back to a point in it, and we seemed in the ascendancy and had control of the big game and control of the ball, and then butchered a number of chances and let the moment pass almost.
Yeah.
And then London's efficiency was better. On top of that, like it was also worrying that. I thought we looked a lot more open than we should at the back, and I think they scored at least 13 points. It was more, I think, from their half forward, really caused us problems, and we never got to grips with that, which was worrying. So it's good to come away from here with a point, but overall, we've a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and despite that and some of those things that you mentioned there, the lads showed great grit to kind of stay in the game. Shawnee kicked 3 2-pointers there in the second half. Micheál Freeney come on and kicked one, and then Keane Smith's one at the end. I think it was 5-1 in terms of the 2-pointer count, but that made a huge difference, and the lads showed kind of great character, I suppose, to stay in that game.
Oh yeah, can't doubt character for a second, and that game looked gone, but the lads they never stopped, and they kept plugging away and kicked some brilliant scores, and I suppose that's why it's frustrating. We have good footballers, and it's just our decision making at times needs to be sharper, and we need to improve our efficiency and just be that bit more clinical.
I suppose it's as we mentioned before, it is a young team. A lot of lads made their first appearance for Tipperary and seniors today. Maybe that kind of comes with it as well, with some of the younger players, that you just get that little bit of inconsistency, and it's all new, I suppose, this level of football.
Yeah, of course, there's a huge learning curve. But I think with Paddy O'Keefe coming on, I think that's made it 7 National League debuts. That's significant. There's going to be a big learning curve in it, but they have to learn fast. That's the nature of it. Have to learn real fast, because it's unforgiving. But look, London will make any team earn it over here. I thought they played some very good football, and they as I said, their half forward line especially was outstanding and caused us woeful problems.
In that second half, you kind of looked to your bench. You had to replace the likes of Stephen O'Brien come off, Paddy Feehan come off. You've big trust in that panel, because the lads, some young lads coming on, were able to make a difference as well.
Yeah, I suppose in fairness to Paddy had been fairly sick all week, so his energy levels, but there's no way they'd be where they needed to be, so that was hard, very hard on him. And then Stephen, he's kind of, it was his first game back, so we have to kind of maybe manage his minutes a bit. We don't want to, there's an injury history there, and we need to mind them. But again, they're senior players that we look up to in a big way. And if we could have them on the field going full tilt for longer, we would. But we have to be smart. There's 7 league games, and we want them playing all of them.
Finally, it's Antrim next Sunday. It's kind of feels like it's going to be a quick turnaround, as you have to fly home this evening and then back at it. So it's kind of coming tooth and nail now the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's the nature of the league. So it's as I said, we get home and already we'll be looking to prepare for next Sunday, and that's going to be a real tough game. I didn't hear any. Well, there's no results out yet. We were an earlier game, but I'm very interested to see how they get on, because Antrim are a good side.
That's Niall Fitzgerald speaking to Paul Carroll after the game in London yesterday, which ended in a draw. Tom, 2 points are so critical now in the modern football game, and thank God we've got fellas who can score them.
Yeah, well, I suppose Niall sounded a bit
down,
there,
yeah,
like
did,
even with the draw, like. But just a comment there on the last couple of bits there. That's why they call, before we used to have selectors over teams, but when you get an idea of all the different things they have to do now with players and different things going on, that's why they call the managers, because there's more managing involved now than selecting, really. Like there's a huge body of work involved in this thing. But I'd be looking at things a bit differently. When I saw the league thing, and historically when you looked at the league fixtures, 4 home games, that's important. For the 4 against 3, they were unlucky the last couple of years. You ended up a couple of years in a row there, you had 3 teams. There's some convoluted way of deciding it. I won't go into that, but like the thing is, at this stage now, you have a point on the board. You have 4 games at home starting next Sunday, but you have only 2 away games. Now, I meant to look up to see who they're against, like, but that has a bearing on it too, that you could have to go to the more difficult ones possibly, like. But I see Watford and Longford didn't play yesterday, but there's some contrary teams there in it, like. And I think, reading between the lines with Niall, and based on what we have, or what Niall and his colleagues have at their disposal, the ante will have to be up a bit to get points, either home or away in the remaining matches. But Lantern were beaten now, as it turns out, yesterday, as far as I remember. So we're a point ahead of them, like. So kind of we have the moral high ground before we start, like. So they'll have learned a bit from going away yesterday. I think you say 7 debutants. Yeah. Well, that's a plus for their confidence that they went to London. Our form, our results against London over the last 4 or 5 years hasn't been wonderful. So a win away or a draw away, I think it's decent. I think I would have taken it. I'd have taken it yesterday morning. Now, that's if you're talking about get a point, work on your 4 home matches. Then the confidence gained with the younger lads yesterday. Like, London's not an easy place to go to at any stage. Like,
no. Can I just ask you this final thing? Niall sounds confident in the footballing abilities of his players. It's just their decision making is something that needs work. That's a steep learning curve for very young fellas playing Division 4 football in tough fields on tough ground.
Yeah, I suppose there's two old Shannockles come to mind there, like Mullinoiga, I was Chuckikshi. And I don't know, like you can't put an old head on young shoulders, but like they'll get experience from it, they'll derive confidence from it, and like that's it's a steep curve, like. But these lads are able for it. I mean, that fact that Niall has been with him for a number of years as under 20 and performing well as under 20. Right, senior league is that little bit up, but it's not as high up as championship. So look. It's an in-between thing, and like I said already, I take the point and go on and have. It's better have it's much easier growth next Sunday having a point and Antrim having no point rather than being Antrim having 2 points and we maybe having no point. So I mean, it's not a bad situation to be in at all, I think. But like they have to be careful though that the experience. When did we have 2 forwards? I mean, we're blessed with some decent forwards now. Yeah. 2 forwards yesterday scored 16 points between them. Like.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's extraordinary.
If that was in hurling, we'd be long. Like, it's a long time since a couple of Tipperary forwards scored 16 points in the one match, and we really drew the match.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, absolutely. And a good weekend, really, for Tipperary football when we'll come to the high school in a minute. So it's, I think, Thurles next Sunday, 2 o'clock for Tipp Antrim. Yeah.
Yeah, both games 2 o'clock on Sunday, for the match, like. So, yeah, a bit of a conflict really there. But look,
we'll find a way around it.
Oh, of course you will.
Tom, I got to fly. Lots to cover before we go off air. Take care. Thanks a million. That's Tom McGrath with his thoughts on the footballers, their draw in London. Late 2-pointer, I think, from Keane Smith gives us the draw there. Let's go to the Clonmel High School, who are into a Clonmel A schools final. For those of you who don't know your football, this is the exact same level as Harty Cup, and brilliant performance from Clonmel High School. They defeated Milltown in the semi-final in Kilmallock on Saturday afternoon. Let's hear from Paddy O'Gorman, their manager.
Yeah, look, at half time we kind of never panicked. We kind of said when we went in at half time that, look, we'd missed the penalty, and we just were too passive and we were very nervous. So we just usually I'd be a man that roared and shouted at half time, but I just said, right, I'll go calm this time, and we just said, boys, we haven't started playing yet, let's press up. And the press was a bit higher in the second half, and it worked, thank God.
Yeah, if you look at it at that stage, we were 6 points down from a Tipperary point of view here, and it looked as though the game could be slipping away. You had 14 players for the end of the first half. The man that was off the field with the black card, you put him in full forward. Maguire, he delivered, bang, back of the net with his first touch in the second half. That's what wins big games.
Yeah, look, at half time we said, what can we do to change it up a little bit, and we felt that they were running through us a little bit, and it actually was a double whammy. We put Mikey inside, and they had to bring back their number 8, who was doing a little bit of damage out the field in the first half, and it kind of suited then. Mikey obviously a brilliant forward as well. I'd seen him all year playing with the Kilsheelan senior team inside there, but they brought back their number 8, which took him out of the game a little bit as well, because he had to mark Mikey. So yeah, it was a management dream there, to something to happen straight away a few seconds into the second half, and Mikey gets a goal, a brilliant goal as well. But look, there's a 40-man panel there, and every one of them are as important to us as the rest of them.
And when the game was really opening up there in the second half, you started well. The Kerry school looked really strong throughout, and then they just couldn't get the scores, and you held Milltown scoreless for the entire second half, which must be something that you're thrilled with too.
Yeah, unbelievable. Like especially because we changed the system a little bit, we tweaked it, and look, that's unbelievable. I didn't actually realise that there until you actually said it to me earlier on there. You know, when the game is on, you don't actually think of anything like that. You're just looking, geez, please get the next score, and yeah, there's still things to work on, and look, we know that the task we have the next day against Tralee CBS, I think, like, they'll be the red hot favourites, and look, but at least we're there, that's the main thing.
That's Paddy O'Gorman speaking to Stephen Gleeson after that full-time whistle in Kilmallock on Saturday afternoon. It finished Clonmel High School 1-10. Presentation Milltown 1-8. The coach of the Clonmel High School, David Powers, on the line. David, how are you?
I'm good, Ronan. How are you, Keith?
I was good, and good talking to you again after a hiatus, David. You're a busy man. You're a busy man, and I'll come to you at a busy weekend. I'm going to start with the high school, if you don't mind. You must be extraordinarily pleased by that second half performance. When, you know, I was looking at the halftime score and I thought, bloody hell, that's a mountain to climb.
Yeah, no, look, I suppose very proud. The players, I suppose, at half time, there was no one losing the rag at half time either. We were all disappointed with what happened in the first half. We all settled down. We made a couple of changes, and I suppose Michael Maguire going in full forward and then getting the goal straight after the throw-in, that kind of settled things, and I think it probably rattled Milltown. And what happened then, their number 8 followed Mikey in, and that took him out of midfield, which was a massive blow to Milltown. So it was it was probably a really good thing for us. But the lads really stepped up, and we probably should have won maybe by a bit more. But there's more in this high school team. They're a very, very good team. A lot of good players, but like it's marvellous to say that you have the high school in the Munster A final and the Abbey CBS in the Munster B final. Like, that's massive.
It is massive, and the Harty Cup next week as well. But let's just talk about the football, because since I've known you, David, you've always been passionate about the current state of Tipperary football, and perhaps more so the future of Tipperary football. It's something that I think really animates you. So put in context what you've just said for us and how important that is, because like Clonmel, it's been 10 years I think since they got to a Kearney final, and that didn't end well, but they were up against David Clifford's Sem at the time. But this is a different animal now. Tralee CBS will be favourites going into this, but this is really important, not for the high school. It is important for the high school, but not just for the high school. It's important for Tipp football.
It's huge. Like, you have 13 Tipperary lads starting the last day. There was two lads from
two interlopers from the Nair, but we'll take them.
Yeah, but like it's a huge. This is a huge step forward for Tipp underage football. I suppose we've been the last probably 10 years we've been suffering at underage, and to be fair to the current senior manager Niall, the under 20s were very unlucky against Cork in the Munster semi-final the year gone. So there is definitely signs that that there is really good, strong underage footballers coming again, and I think there were 7 debutants there over in London there yesterday as well. Like that's all positive signs. But for the high school to get to a Munster A final, and I suppose it was 98 years ago, the high school were the first winners of the Munster A championship. So
I didn't know that. That's a great 98 years ago, first ever winners. Excellent, great stat.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I think in a fortnight's time against Tralee. We wish you the very best luck. It's really, really important for Tipp football. Many congratulations to Clonmel High School and so many clubs. I'm looking at the clubs, we've mentioned in our, but like around South Tipperary, from Grange Mokler to Clonmel Oak, Moyle Rovers, as you'd expect, and you'd probably expect some Clonmel commercials as well. But it's just a good spread of clubs as well. Kilsheal and Kilcash, no doubt, as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is really important.
And like I have to say, Paddy and Kieran have been, they've been super, and the way they can relate to the players are dying for them, and that's what's happening on the fields. And just hopefully we can get a huge Clonmel support there in 2 weeks' time from all the clubs that are involved. Because like it's massive for underage football in all the clubs as well, because the young players will see this and say, "Geez,
I want more of this.
Do it, why can't we do it?"
And also those players who are playing, I want to do this with the blue and gold jersey on. Play finals.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask you to change hats for a minute and put on your ladies football hat, because you are the manager of our Tipp ladies football? How are the girls responding to the new rules? Because this year is the first year of implementation for the rules we saw in the men's game last year.
The tap and go, I think that was a huge move for ladies. It makes more sense. I thought the tap and go was really good yesterday. The 3 up, really good, because I think ladies football was suffering. It was a very defensive game, and yesterday it was very offensive. And from looking at other games around from Division 1, 2 and 3 and 4, that was the general team. I think the one area where there's a massive struggle is probably the tackle. Depending on the referee, the definition of the tackle is still very up in the air. They're allowing more physicality, but it's very frustrating for the players because you just don't know what's a free or what's not a free. So that's the one big area I think they're going to have to...
They're going to have talks to the refs about.
Yeah, they're going to have to nail that down.
Yeah. Okay. From the girls' point of view, it was a good win on the road, which is always important. I think a late Wexford goal perhaps made the scoreline a little more flattering for them than it otherwise would be. Wins on the road are important, David. You bring that back to Clonmel next Sunday.
Yeah. Look, I think first of all, it's great to be playing the 4 home games in Clonmel. Look, home advantage is going to be huge. Like, by winning the away game, if we can have a good home record, it's going to give us a really good chance in getting into the top 2. And look, that's our target. We've made no secret of it. And again, like being in Clonmel against Cavan had a good result against Mayo last Sunday. So look, we know that's going to be a tough game. Also, the O'Connor Cup is starting on Thursday, so we've 9 or 10 girls involved in that as well. So it's just going to be managing their loads and making sure that they're going to be as fresh as possible for Sunday. But look, if we can get 3 points on Sunday, we'll be probably after beating one of the hot favourites for our promotion. So that'll be a big thing. But look, we've a lot of work to do now this week to get ready for that game.
I hope somebody's managing your load as well, David. So fair play to you for your efforts in football.
Yeah, look, it's grand when
you're winning.
I suppose the results are going your way, but look, I enjoy it, and it's great to be involved.
David, we'll chat again, no doubt, as the season progresses. My thanks for your time tonight. I know you're busy. Thank you.
No hassle. Thanks, Ronan. Thank you.
David Power joining us there. He's also involved, I think, with UL and Sigerson. So fair play to David and his contribution to football. Doesn't need me to give you his CV. Excellent. Our text number 083 311 3311. We're going to turn to soccer next because it's a really pivotal weekend in the TSDL. Just before we came on air, Barry Ryan gave us his thoughts.
feels like a really, really significant day in the title race. Peakville really probably look like they've got one hand on it now, although I suppose they're so experienced over the last number of years. They've won the title late in the season, they've lost the title late in the season, so they'll probably dismiss all talk of having one hand on the title or anything like that. They'll probably be very, very focused on what they need to do in the coming weeks, but basically it looks like now just avoid defeat to St. Michael's, and that's allowing for St. Michael's going and beating Burris themselves, who've proved awkward opponents for St. Michael's in the last couple of years, no more so than in the Tipperary Cup final. So Peakville in a really, really significant position. I suppose in terms of the game itself on Sunday, felt like a very, very professional performance, really tight early exchanges on a soft pitch, and then Peakville opened the scoring through Peter O'Dowd with a really nice strike from the edge of the box. I think the goalkeeper for Burris to be a little bit disappointed. I think if he moves his feet, I think he gets one hand and tips it over the bar, but to take nothing away from Peter O'Dowd, it's a good strike, and it puts Peakville 1-0 up. And then they go and double it before half time with Ronan Maguire finishing to put them in a really, really commanding position that you probably never felt that they'd lose from there. But in the second half, to credit to Clonmel Burris, they rallied. Jake Jordan is taken down in the box for a penalty, slots it home himself to make it 2-1. And now you're wondering, are Peakville going to get cagey and sit back to try and see it out and draw Clonmel Burris on him? But again, I think that little bit of experience of a team that's been there and done it, they went and got a third goal when Dale O'Knan capitalises on a strike where the keeper spills it and tucks it home to make it 3-1. And like I said, it's a really, really significant 3 points and puts them in a really, really commanding position. So I think probably a disappointing result from St. Michael's point of view. Would have been hoping for a draw, maybe in both sides hurt each other, but Peakville have really done what they needed to do and dominated in the local derby. St. Michael's then, in talking about teams doing what they needed to do, they probably had to pick themselves up in the afternoon on the back of that result in the morning not going their way. They've gone to Cullen Latin, they've put 6 past the hosts and very much done their job, so a really commanding performance from them. But I suppose now the focus for them is very much they've got to go to Thurles and beat Peakville to keep the title race alive. So I suppose, look, as long as they can take care of business between now and then, they'll back themselves in a one-off game against anybody. So look, it's going to be interesting. In the meantime, St. Michael's have to play Care and they'll play Clonmel Burris in the Tipperary Cup game Sunday week. So lots of big games will come before that showdown in Thurles. I think for everybody in the TSDL, the excitement probably moves from one end of the table to the other end of the table now. And what's already been billed as Survival Sunday in this coming Sunday, where Clonmel Town travel to Clonmel Celtic and Cashel and Cullen Latin face off against each other. I think for anyone of a Clonmel Town persuasion, they're going to have to win the derby and then hope results go their way in the Cullen and Cashel game. I think a win for Cullen would probably suit Clonmel best in terms of they'd be level on 5 points each with Cashel if the results were to play out that way. But if the alternative was to happen and Clonmel Celtic were to win the derby and Cashel were to beat Cullen Latin, the gap then would be significant. It would be 5 points from Clonmel Town to both Cullen and Cashel. So I think this Sunday really, really whets the appetite, and I think that derby in particular in Clonmel will probably attract a good crowd, and it's very much now or never for Clonmel Town if they're going to save their season and turn things around, but it's definitely going to be a bumper weekend.
Extra time on Tipp FM.
That's Barry Ryan giving us his thoughts on the TSDL just before we came on air this evening. Credit too to Clonmel Town Youths. They won their FAI Youth Cup last 16 tie away to Tullamore, 5-1. So they're in the last 8 of the FAI Youth Cup, which is an extraordinarily prestigious under 18 competition. Let's finish off with rugby tonight. Joe Winston from Clonmel Rugby Club is on the line. Good evening to you, Joe.
Good evening, Ronan.
Mixed feelings, I'm sure, for you, because a good performance in Bruff, very, very hard place to go and win at the best of times, but you had the game in the palm of your hand until the last minute.
Yeah, we played very well in the first half, but then the second half, our kicking game went astray, and we just kept inviting them back into our half, and they were on our line for. The only good thing was our defence, because they must have been pounding our line for about 5 solid minutes, and we kept them out until the first minute of injury time when they went in on the corner. And their kicker hadn't missed a kick all day, and sure enough, he got the conversion. So disappointed that way, but not surprised by the performance of Bruff.
That's true. It's a tough place to go and play. Now, Thomond winning puts a bit of clear water between you and them in first and second, and Bective breathing down your necks as well. It's all setting up for a grandstand finish.
It is, yeah. Now, the other thing I'll say is that the top 4 teams are breaking away from the rest of the group. I mean, you go from Monkstown in 4th on 35 points down to Broffer on 27, so there's an 8-point gap there. But what you want to finish either first or second, preferably first, so that you'd have if you get to the semi-final of the playoffs, you'd have a home draw through that. So at this stage of the game, it's looking like Thome and ourselves, Bective and Monkstown, will be in the shake-up at the end. But things can change as well.
Who's next up?
Middleton in Clonmel on Saturday.
Okay, and that's an opportunity for you to get back on the horse, I think, in a home crowd, hopefully.
Yeah, of course, Middleton have dropped to 9th in the table, so they'll be scrapping like hell to try and start getting some points on board the bottom of the division. Whereas initially, 2 months ago, you would have said Malahide would go on and Ballyclare possibly, but now they're all catching up with the teams in 7th. It's becoming a much tighter affair down at the bottom of the table. So, as I say, the teams near the bottom will be scrapping.
Sorry for the brevity, but I've got to fly, Joe. Thanks for your time.
No problem, Ron.
Thanks indeed. Take care. That's Joe Winston from Clonmel Rugby Club. That's all we've time for. Ian O'Connor produced another packed show. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you next week. Good night and good luck.